Okay, we'll go ahead and call the City of Peru Common Council meeting for November 4th, 2019 to order. Stand for the Pledge of Allegiance led by Councilman Mark Ramsey and the invocation by Pastor Brent Redding.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Father, we thank you for your goodness and your mercy. We pray that you would continue to bless our city and bless this meeting tonight. We thank you for all of those that have served in any capacity. We know this is election time and things may be changing. Bless those that have served, bless those that will start serving, and we thank you that through it all you remain in control and the blessings will still come because we honor you. We thank you and we praise you in Jesus' name. Amen.
Okay. Roll call.
Holland.
Here.
Justin.
Here.
Lee.
Here.
Ramsey.
Here.
Bowman.
Here.
Langwell. Here. Krauskopf.
Here. All right, everyone's present. Next we have the reading and correcting of the journal.
Move we suspend the rules and dispense with the reading and correcting of the journal.
Second. It's been moved by Councilman Krauskopf and seconded by Councilman Guston to dispense the rules and the reading and correcting of the journal. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Next we have communications.
Cheryl, do you have something or not?
I don't have a report this
Okay.
month.
Then we'll go on to report from the Peru Economic Development Commission.
Sorry to explain.
No, Blaine, wait up. You have a report for us? I do? Okay. Sorry, I was actively reading something else. It's your turn. Great? Okay. So, first Economic Development Committee meeting that we had this evening to discuss an agreement with the city and TDV3 LLC for a project. The Economic Development Commission favorably gave their recommendation, unanimously gave their recommendation for this project. And you guys all have this packet as well, right? Mm-hmm. Informed, read in on it. Does anybody have any questions?
Well, we're going to discuss the ordinance later, so you're just giving a report now.
Okay.
Okay.
Yep. So that's your report? We gave a favorable report.
A favorable review.
Review.
Okay. Okay. Very good. That's the communications. We move on to unfinished business. We have nothing in unfinished business. So under new business, we have ordinance 24, 2019.
Ordinance 24, 2019, an ordinance establishing rates, charges, and service conditions for the City of Peru municipal water utility located at Grissom Aeroplex service area.
Move we consider ordinance 24, 2019.
Second. It's been moved by Councilman Krauskopf, seconded by Councilman Destin to consider ordinance 24, 2019. Roll call.
Holland.
Yes.
Justin.
Yes.
Lee.
Yes.
Ramsey. Yes. Bowman.
Yes.
Langwell. Krauskopf.
Yes. And we're going to have a presentation on it, right?
Yes, sir.
All righty. Enlighten us. Oh, thank you. I needed that.
Well, thanks for taking the time this evening. This might take a bit, so bear with me. There's quite a bit involved in this, and this is not something I want to be up here doing, and it's not something you guys want to be approving. So that's before we use the ordinance 24, 2019 for your consideration. Establish the rates and charges for Grissom Aeroplex service. A little background before we get that far. I don't have enough room. A little background before we get into actually what the rates, what we're requesting the rates to be. I want to talk a little bit about Grissom and where we kind of got Grissom and kind of what we were left with. So it was given to Peru in 99, 2000 area when the base closed, and I believe the GRA had it at that time. Am I correct there? And a lot of this is just me reading back because I wasn't here, I wasn't involved in this in the time, and just listening to people talk. And at that time, it was given to us as a separate financial utility. So we have Grissom Water, we have Grissom Wastewater, we have Peru Water, Peru Wastewater, Peru Stormwater, and Electric. So they're all separate utilities, and they have to support themselves. They had an initial rate in that time frame, 2000, but only about a half the meters were installed. That's what the GRA did what they could, but they were left with basically 0 meters at that time. So we really didn't know what the rate was supposed to be. So when we took it over in between 2000, we put in meters, and it looks like we put in the meters in the best way possible for our ratepayers. So some of them, a lot of them in the residential areas are physically under the kitchen sinks. Up until last year when we did a complete meter replacement, we couldn't read those meters because people wouldn't let us in there. We couldn't shut them off. We really couldn't do anything. So we were guesstimating all the meters at that time, about a year ago, when we started putting the meters in. So now we have a better handle on where that utility's at. So in 2002, this rate, 17 years, was passed. The current rate that we have is 17 years old. And I'm going to say it a million times, 17 years old. So no cost of service study, no rate study, no nothing for 17 years. So in 2008, 2009, that's where we really started seeing our balances decline there. That's where they began to start dropping off on our operations and maintenance balances and our capital improvements fund. And at that point, it looks like, again, I wasn't here, and I'm not trying to speak ill of, but people in the past did what they needed to do to keep the rates low. So let's make that, I want to make that clear. That's where we kind of started managing our decline, so to speak, managing the physical decline, not the financial decline. So at that point, we shifted labor. We shifted down to, over the past couple of years, we shifted down to 2 operators and 1 maintenance person for 1,175 meters out there. 1 maintenance person, 2 operators. So we're kind of down to the bare minimum out there. And we continue to cut maintenance and cut maintenance and cut capital improvements and cut capital improvements until, we can't cut anymore. And over the past 4 years, really, the balances in the operations and maintenance and capital improvements have dwindled to around 55 to 60 days cash for operations and maintenance right now, currently. And then we're really one large emergency away in our capital improvements fund to not being able to operate. It's unfortunate. It's the way it is. So, keeping the rates at one of the lowest in the state is good for our ratepayers, but now we're seeing kind of the fruits of that policy, and the decline in the system is pretty bad. So, with that being said, I brought some pictures. I'm going to put them up on the board, just kind of show you. You guys all kind of had an advanced copy of the engineering report that we've been working on for the past year and a half. It has pictures, it has the needs, the 20-year needs, and hopefully you have an opportunity to look through that, and also be very much willing over the next 30 days to give tours out there to show you guys around, and just so you know for a fact that this is what it is. So I'd also like to say, though, with these pictures, we have some incredible operators out there. We have the 2 operators that we have currently and 2 that we've had in the past who've since retired. We've had 0 violations. We've no reports of anybody getting sick. We pass all our tests, and even with these conditions, those guys are amazing. So I just want to say that this is definitely not to them, because they are some amazing operators. We have great people. That is our strength. For utilities in Peru, we have great people, and that is our strength here. So I'll never stop saying that. Let's see, there should be some pictures. There's some pictures. So here's the water plant. Hopefully it'll clear up a little bit. So here's the water plant. That's just one side of the water plant. You can see in this area where it started cracking in the outside of the building here. This is the front area. If you look, it's vintage federal building, Air Force building. This is our, this is what we deem a clear cone, but we use it as a detention tank. It's not what it's used for, but it works really well for a pre-treated water detention tank. Works really well. And you can see that this line should probably all the way be insulated. We have a meter just kind of sticking out here. And again, I want to reiterate that you can only do so much maintenance with nothing. So the maintenance that we've done in the past and the capital improvements we've done in the past are out of 100% necessity. So this is the post-filter detention tank, and if you look at the spalling and the cracking and how it's kind of fallen off in that front corner there, here's another view of the other side. Here's it actually falling off, and this isn't an old picture. This is 2 weeks ago. I went out and took these with my tablet. This was inspected in 2006, I believe, 2005 or 2006, and it says there were deficiencies, ladder rungs, roof, obviously this, and nothing was done. We need to do something now. Why do we have an inspection if we don't do anything? Got to have money to do it, I suppose. Again, I wasn't necessarily involved. This is a roof. You can see it's just it looks like an asphalt road roof. It's cracking. It's leaking. Here's a little closer picture of it. That's one of the roof vents. You can see it's completely. If you pushed on it, the whole thing would probably break off in the corner, and the whole thing would be laying on the roof, exposing our post-filtered water. So we obviously chlorinate. We have to chlorinate by law. So this is our chlorination room. If you look at the paint and the coverings are just falling off the wall, coming off the wall. You'll see that's a theme here. Again, another spot. And it used to be, when it was a federal building, it was a bulk delivery chlorine system, so we had this door there. Well, that door has pretty much fallen apart completely, and we don't get bulk delivery anymore, so we just padded it up or insulated and did the best we could with it. It's not sealed. If for some reason we would have a chlorine leak, it would get into the atmosphere and would dissipate probably beforehand, but it's still a safety concern. But now we have the cylinders. This is our filter room. We have 2 filters here, whereas Peru we have 6. We have 2 here. These are original. These are 1943. The building was built in 1943, post-World War II, and they were updated a little bit underneath in 1983, and the media itself, the filter media is basically what you have in your softener type thing, even though it's not softener. You have the anthracite, the sand, and the small gravel pieces that filters through. But that hasn't been changed in 23 years, and it has a 10-year life. Our tests are still coming out good. We're happy about that, but who knows about tomorrow? Or the reason we need this project. The little piece of control board there, it's been scabbed and stuck together and everything else. I think there's a better picture of it. That's the actual filter. As you can see, I think they took that from NASA after they disbanded all that when they landed on the moon. We've got some chart recorders. We have some digital type of controllers. But when they backwash these filters, when you backwash a filter, basically you push water back through the opposite direction. You push out all the rust and the solids and things like that, and you take it, you put it into the sanitary system. When they backwash a filter, we don't even know when it's time to backwash a filter. We just backwash one day, backwash one the next day, backwash one day, backwash one the next day. And it's worked for us because, well, we don't want to have any violations. We want to make sure nobody gets sick. So we do it that way. In the real world, you have a differential pressure between the two. What you're pumping in is the same pressure that's coming out, same flow that's coming out. And you know that maybe every 3 days you backwash one filter. Not every day you backwash one filter. So we're wasting a lot of water. And that's directly... that directly affects the rates and what our bottom line is. So part of that upgrades that we want to do is on our control system. So this is the control room, and it's hard to see, but I contend that the carpet there is shag from the 70s. It's just so worn down and dirty you can't tell. The wood paneling, old type equipment, the chairs are from the Air Force, a lot of them are. We kept from the Air Force. The desks are from the Air Force. Nothing's been done here. And I would also contend that it's a health and safety issue for our employees, for our people that are in there. There's no telling what kind of dust, mites, you name it, germs that are in there that they're walking in the control area. Now, this is not the lab area. There's a difference. That they're walking into the control area and being around every day. So what we would like to do is at least replace the flooring, maybe put some drywall up. Again, another picture of where the control area is. This is our SCADA system, Supervisor Control and Data Acquisition. So that's what's supposed to control everything in the system. Like Peru here, where we know what our pressures are in the system. We know flow rates. We know how full our towers are. We know all of these things. Here, it's all by feel, by sight. They know if the pressure in the system is this, then they know how full their tower is. They know here, we know in Peru that the flow rate out of the system, a certain amount of chlorine has to go into that system to not make people sick, either too much chlorine or too much bacteria. Here it is, okay, my flow is at this point, I need to make sure my chlorine, they go down and they manually, downstairs, manually adjust that. Now, we test it pre and post, right? So we know we're doing right, but we're way behind it. One slip up can make people sick. And at the prison, Department of Corrections, they have over 3,000 people. One pipe in, one pipe out, right? We make one slip up on the large tower that feeds the prison, 3,000 people are sick. And they like to litigate. They do.
Have a whole law library.
Another one of the offices, the old desks and stuff. So this is our updated area. We have fiber coming in for communication because right now currently our fiber or our communication is all RF, basically radios that communicate between the towers and the lift stations and the pumps. We have pumps in the basement, and I'll show you in a second that you can start at our SCADA system, walk down the spiral, un-OSHA approved spiral staircase, stand there by the pump, and wait a few seconds, and then it'll kick on. Okay, those are the ones that work. So we've ran fiber with what little money we've had, and we're ready to upgrade everything, but the communication, we bought all the spare parts we possibly have, we can possibly get from eBay, from Amazon, you name it, and once it's gone, it's gone. We have to have money in the capital budget to be able to replace that stuff. That's the lab. If you notice, it's hard to see the flooring, but it's that old linoleum, been there since the 70s. Again, if you look at the wall coverings and we've replaced some of the lights. So this is in the basement. This is where our pumps are, our influent and effluent, coming in, going out. What we would deem high service pumps and feed pumps. I'm sure there's a more.
Surface wash pumps?
Hey, there it is. Jamie Bicycle, everyone. Division Water Management Superintendent, the expert. So this ladder here, I always find this comical because this is a huge safety hazard. This ladder right here. So that's a tank behind there. What tank is that?
Clear well.
That's the clear well. That's a tank behind there. To check the level, we got to climb up on the ladder. Okay, it's not full yet. Climb back down the ladder. Or it overflows. Or we don't have enough water in the clear well to fill the tanks for the day. Those pumps are original down below, and if you see the coverings of the walls just completely coming off. I promise I'll speed up here in a minute. There's some older pumps. This one's a newer pump, probably 10 to 12 years old. This one's probably 23 years old, 24 years old. Again, coverings coming off the walls. And every bit of electric, and I'll show you a little bit more here in a second, every bit of electric is old and outdated. This is probably the newest one. This is actually in the plant. If you look at that beautiful spiral staircase there, next to it, that's how the operators get down to the next level. And so this is the newest one. It's probably still 35 years old. It doesn't have the safety measures that newer ones do. Because it's here and we haven't done anything to it, it's OSHA compliant. OSHA has arc flash rules now that have come out in the past probably 10, 15 years that you have to be so far away from a switchgear or a cabinet, you have to have a means of egress and things like that. You don't have that. You got a staircase there, you got a post there. And I mean, that needs to be replaced, and that's one of the newer ones. Now look at the pumps. This is our backwash lines. And is it effluent lines too, or just backwash lines? Backwash and outgoing lines, there you go. And you can see the coatings are completely coming off. All of our valves are pneumatic except for these two here that we've had to replace. Pneumatic air-driven motors, they're not motors, air-driven to open and close. They don't seat, so for us to take a filter out of service to replace the media, we can't. Water would go all over the basement because the valves don't work. That will be a challenge. But currently, there's no way around it. Again, that beautiful spiral staircase, which has to be removed. So we have 4 wells. This is one of the wells. This is actually one of the wells on site. This is one of the better well houses. It's got a nice clean board on the window. The door's actually rotted off. Backside of it, big crack in the well house. This is actually in the well. Now this is well. This is what we're drawing from. This is not what gets pumped out. This goes through the filter plant and treated and everything else. So if you see things that are like, ooh, that's dirty, well, it's a well. When you see most of the water on the ground, well seal is not the best. These are some vintage Westinghouse disconnects. This is our meter that doesn't work well, so we don't really know exactly how much is going into the plant other than the plant metering. More pictures be old. And look at that ABB cabinet there. That's probably 65, 70, like that. Again, we've got them boarded up. This is one of the other wells, and that's not paint coming off. I could get my hand in that. The outside just falling apart. And I know I'm making this look really horrible here, but there's a reason. I mean, there's a reason I need to make us look this bad, because we need a rate increase. And this should have been done every 5 to 7 years. We should have looked back in and had a discussion about the rates, and we were only going to have to do 3 or 4% every 3, 4, 5 years versus what we need to do now. Again, I mean, this coating's coming off, old school, the 480 volt switch. This is actually one on Department of Corrections. It's falling apart at the top, rotten. That door would probably resist a bomb. It's that old. Again, old square D equipment. I mean, I could go on and on and on. We have the 2 towers. We have a 1 million gallon tower, feeds the prison, the base, and any of the industrial stuff outside near 31. It's in decent shape. It needs cleaned, definitely needs cleaned and painted. This one was painted in 2012, so we've probably got 2 to 5 years before we need to paint this one. It needs cleaned. It looks terrible. Now the inside doesn't look terrible, but the outside looks terrible. And this is the 400,000 gallon tank near the gas station there, near the fuel tanks on base. It needs painted badly, rust. That's the tank itself, and see the rust going all the way up and the rust on the bottom of the tank. Not superficial, that's on the outside, but so that's kind of where we're at as far as the system. I could go into everything you have there, but I think maybe that explains it enough. So what we did was we performed a rate study. I think I took over at the end of 2017 from Joe Pandy. And Joe Pandy took over 12 or 16 months before that for Roger Merriman. And again, we have to do what we have to do with the information that we have. I'm trying to give you every bit of information that I have. So at the end of 2017, we worked on the Peru rate, closed on SRF loan, an OCA grant. We closed on financing for our meter system. In 2018, one of the first things that we did was get a long-term plan for each one of our 6 utilities. And our priority ended up being Grissom Water. So that's where we're at here. We've been working on this for almost 2 years now. We had an engineering, a preliminary engineering report, which you all got a copy of, that detailed this in way more detail, with pictures and everything that 20 years from now needs to be taken care of. We did the rate study based on that, based on $3.5 million. Originally, it was a $4 million, $4.1, $4.2 million engineering report, and we said, man, we got to cut it down to things, the only things that absolutely have to get done, and they have to get done within the next 12 to 18 months. We cut it down to $3.5 million, so that's the extent of the project here. At that time, once we got the rate study done, we were contacted by the Department of Corrections, who is just below 50% of our total usage. We were contacted by the Department of Corrections by Ted Summers, who is with LWA, but he works on behalf of the state and all utility rate cases on the Department of Corrections. So every time the Department of Corrections in their area has a rate or a utility increase or a utility study, he comes in and basically goes through it with a fine-tooth comb. So us and Baker Tilly turned it over to them, where we were at in the process, what we thought the rates were going to be, what we needed to have done. And usually what happens with the Department of Corrections and Mr. Summers, they come in and they say, well, we're not paying for that because that doesn't directly go to our department, go to our prison. We're not paying for this, we're not paying for that. This doesn't serve us. Everybody else has to pay for that but us. And usually that's what happens. So, of course, we're going through the process, and we were in this 8 months probably. Going through the process, and we met with the State Revolving Fund, the head of the State Revolving Fund, the SRF, and Mr. Summers and Baker Tilly, and we met down there, and the SRF looks at Mr. Summers and says, okay, what do you guys object to? He says, nothing. And it's his job to save the Department of Corrections money. He says, nothing. We don't want to pay it. But if anybody needs money, it's these people right here. Now, that's embarrassing, first of all. Everything I've said here is embarrassing. I take it personally. The only thing we can do is make it right. So, at that point, he says nothing, and then we've moved forward. I would have liked to have done this a year ago, but it's just how long it takes to do this sort of thing. So what we're looking at for an SRF funding for $3.5 million, we're also attempting to get an Okra grant, but we won't know that until further into next year. So what we're asking is a rate to support making ourselves whole and $3.5 million SRF financing. And if by some chance we get the Okra grant, we would come back to you directly afterwards and say, hey, we'd like to lower the rates down to whatever that Okra grant is. It might be 10 cents, it might be $1. I don't know. It depends on what we get. It's kind of like 50-50 when we talked to them this past month. So, the skinny of it. So in front of you, you have the proposed rates and charges for we want to go from $4.20, and I want to say that Grissom has been very fortunate at $13 and change for 3,000 gallons. Almost absolutely the lowest in the state in years. Top 10, bottom 10, however you want to look at it. Okay, so there's a reason why we haven't had money to fix anything, other than us not coming back to you and say, hey, we probably ought to fix something. So we want to go from $4.20 for 1,000 gallons for a residential meter to $5.95. So basically that makes a minimum charge of, if you look, here, it's currently $12.60. It's going to go up to $17.85 for 3,000 gallons. Now this is not representative of what the rate's going to be. So I mean that in itself, well, that's $17.85. Yeah, what's wrong with that, right?
And a normal house uses how much?
Around 3,000 gallons.
Around 3,000
Especially out
gallons.
there, it's around 3,000 gallons. They don't use a whole lot.
So it's going to go $5.15, $5.25.
$5.25
$5.25.
for the water.
For the water, okay.
So this is part of the reason why we're in the situation we're in. On the next page, it's going to show you what fire protection is. We're currently paying 83 cents a month in fire protection. Sorry. 83 cents a month in fire protection. Which is, you can't buy a hydrant with 2 years worth of revenue with 83 cents. Our hydrants are old. They're old Air Force hydrants. They even have the same connections that some of ours here in Peru have. My Grand Grissom Fire helps out, and I don't just go to Peru every once in a while to get it, they don't have to go out there. So that needs to go up $12.59. That's a huge jump, right?
Josh, wasn't there an error in the calculation originally?
I don't have no proof of that. I don't have any proof of that.
What is Peru's?
It should have probably been $8.30 from the beginning. How it got to 83 cents, I don't know. Peru's fire protection is $12.50.
Yeah. So,
$13.50, excuse me. $13.50, yeah.
so it's still lower than what Peru residents are paying.
Yeah, it is. No, it's going to be higher. I'm on the wrong one. I'm sorry. Peru's is $11.27.
Okay.
So they'll be a little higher than Peru. The rate's going to be higher than Peru. This is really an increase of $11.76. Now, I could come up here and say, oh, it's a percentage increase overall, it's 46%. That's not how we want to. We want to make sure that everyone knows that this is the major increase.
But obviously that was completely out of whack, because Peru's been paying,
Almost $7.50 to begin with.
yeah.
The last 20 years.
It probably should have been the $8.30 instead of 83 cents.
And then revised every 5 years.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think Peru's old one was 9 something, right?
Yeah, it
It was
wasn't
9 something. I don't have that in front of me, I'm sorry, but, so that's the increase that's the major increase in the rates.
You know something, Josh?
Yes, sir.
In studying all of this, I'm alarmed at several things. First of all, a lot of this equipment was installed the year I was born.
Some of it's been updated.
Well, and watch it, buddy. But I'm running better than a lot of this equipment.
You probably are.
The other second thing is, the old water tower, this is just one of the things that got to me. That railing up on the old water tower is 36 inches. Federal government requires 42 inches.
Correct.
And they're the ones that put it in.
Correct. Yeah, well,
But that's just one of the many things that we're going to run into. But the bottom line that gets me is, we're not taking in enough money to pay for what we've got.
that's correct.
We're operating at a deficit every year.
We are.
Something's got to be done here. We ran into this with our rates and had to raise them.
So really, since you said that, this is our revenue here, just over $600,000. This is the revenue we need. Now, if we would have increased that over time, we may only need an 8 or 10%. Maybe not even that. That's where we're at. And a lot of that's plan improvements and stuff because it cascades, snowballs, however you want to put it, to not being able to do anything.
Josh, could you let everyone know what those different, 'cause I can't
It is
read
what it
that.
is, isn't it? So, the operational maintenance expense is in the orange. So that's what we need to just do our operational maintenance expense, or our treatment expense. And since 2007, our treatment expense has gone up 80%, over 80%. And that's just normal, right? I mean, inflation, price of chemicals, you name it, labor. And I said labor, but none of this has anything to do with our people getting raises. They get their normal contract raise this year, but they're not getting a cut of this because we need it so badly in other places. Not that they don't deserve it for operating a utility in this manner, this backward. And let's see, lease and rental payments, so those are our meters that we completely replaced last year. That's the purple.
By the way, how did you get into the houses to replace the meters? They wouldn't let you into the
It was quite the ordeal. It took us about 8 months to get all the way in. We ended up having to call the landowner, not the renter, and say, hey, look, we're going to put a lien on your sewage because your tenant's not paying their bill and not letting us in. We had bills that were 15 months overdue, 13 months overdue.
Okay.
And then you just can't get in there. They won't let you in. It's trespassing. And when the landlords won't help us, now Eagles Point, those guys are awesome. They help us. They take care of us. They're great to work with. So those properties weren't too bad. And then so this is the debt service and debt service reserve, and then this is an increase in our capital improvements plan, so we can paint the tower. So we can't finance a tower painting, can't finance a tower maintenance, can't finance maintenance in that area. We can finance capital improvements. So $3.5 million is capital improvements: pumps, VFDs, SCADA system, communications, all things that depreciate over time, over the 20 years. So there's the rate. I'll give you a comparison. And this is, there's a caveat to this. This is 4,000 gallons as a minimum, and that's what the state goes off of. So it's blurry. I apologize. So for 4,000 gallons, which most of our, almost all of them are 3,000, it's $17. Heck, I can't even read. Is $17. That's our current Grissom rate. This will be the proposed Grissom rate for 4,000 gallons at $36.39 a month. The 3,000 gallon rate will be, apologize, $30.44. So that's most of our tenants, $30.44. Bunker Hill's at $67, Huntington's at $40, Kokomo, Warsaw, and Wabash are $39.84. Those are American Water. Those are IOUs, private investors, private companies. Winamax at $37. North Manchester's at $31. Peru is currently for 4,000 gallons at $29, so they will be above Peru. But economy of scale, think about it. Economy of scale. Less people, 1,175 meters versus 5,140 something meters, I think, in Peru. So economy of scale, so it's about right. Is it higher than it should be? Probably, if we would have been doing this incrementally like we should. So there's a comparison. Let's see, Logansport's got 4 more rate increases coming up. They're here, but they have an incremental increase over the next 4 years. Monticello's working on a rate increase. Marion's working on a rate increase. So we're still, probably by the time this is over, going to be on the short end of the curve. Unfortunately, $36 is probably not what I'd like to do, but I'm not seeing a choice here. So,
I have a quick question.
yes, ma'am.
So if the rates go up, in the past, people have not been paying their bills. So if the rates go up, what if they don't pay their bills again? I mean, is there any guarantee for the future?
No, and this isn't because people aren't paying their bills. But what we continued to do in the past is now we can shut them off. Now we have automatic meters under the sinks, so we shut them off. Now we're going to pay them a heck of a lot quicker. So that's helped a whole lot. Our revenue last month was around $55,000. I think compared to the year before, in that month is around $52,000. So revenue has ticked up a little bit at certain times of the year, but now we can shut most of them off. We've got a better relationship with the landowners now, the homeowners now, because of what we went through. So it was a good process, and it improved our relationship with those people out there. Well, the homeowners and Eagles Point.
Because the majority of homeowners, you do shut off if they don't pay.
Sure. We usually shut the electric off because we have electric and water. Now, there we only have water on the residential side.
Okay, so
The only thing we can shut off is water out there.
Okay.
Yeah.
But you will be able to do that in the future.
About 98% of them, yes. Some of them we can't stand. So with the rate increase that we're proposing, we get a measure of safety and health guarantees for our employees. We have to see it's people and product, right? They're pretty equal, right? We want a good product, but we want to treat our people right, we want to treat our customers right. We have a continued reliable supply of water, which is extremely important. I firmly believe without this, we're months, a year, 2 years away from that reliability tanking. No pun intended. We have a safe water supply. We'll have the ability to have safe chlorination control, not manually controlling the chlorination. And again, those guys are awesome out there. They're incredible. To be able to serve 1,175 meters with one maintenance person, and we do shift staff when we have to, and 2 operators. And continued accurate testing, because we feel like that's just going to continue to go downhill. More reliable fire protection, timely replacement of hydrants that are leaking, that are old and outdated. And you know, again, we have over 3,000 residents at Department of Corrections, one pipe in, one pipe out. We have a state to take care of as well as our customers. We have the United States Air Force Reserve to take care of. And on a guard weekend, they can have up to 2,000 people there. We have people we need to take care of, and this is unfortunately taking us 2 years to get through and make sure we're doing the right thing. So.
Another thing you might add, the Air Force had no objection to the rate increase either.
Just send it to us. Okay. So,
Which the Department of Corrections and the Air Force are both the larger consumers of
yes.
the water.
Yeah, I think the Air Force is 11%, don't quote me on that, it's 10 or 11% of our total usage out there, and Department of Corrections is 48.
So about 60%.
But the people that get affected the most are our 3,000 gallon residents. They get the proportionally larger brunt. Now, the Department of Corrections, their bill is going to go up almost $200,000 next year. And they said, we don't want to pay it, but it is what it is. So that's all I have. I'll be happy to take more questions from anybody.
Jim, do you have a question?
Yeah, I was going to ask, and I appreciate you going through this, and I mean, I was here with the turnover, so
Right.
I understand what you're talking about. Yeah, and I understand that the Air Force says, okay, hey, let's just send us a check. The state says, yeah, let's just send, that's government. Okay, whether we agree with it or we don't.
Right.
But my concern gets back to the private industry, and in particular, from what I know, a pretty substantial water user, and that's Steve Baldwin. You know, by your scale there, just on their fire protection, I mean, as a private business, that's going to, seems to be a pretty substantial hit. And was just wondering, where do we, and I know you showed the examples of 4,000 gallons from a residential side, but from a commercial and industry side, do you know where we kind of fall in competition with other communities?
Not in competition with other communities. That's pretty hard to gauge because it depends on usage and how they're tiered and.
Josh, didn't you previously make a comment about pressure in the system and having to be scaled back due to the wearing of the equipment, and so there is actually a decrease in system pressure currently in that system, which is
We have to run more pumps to get the pressure where it needs to be, because our pumps have diminished so much over time. So we
Right.
should be pumping 1,000 gallons, and they're pumping a minute, they're pumping 650 on our high service side.
right,
No
which is now increasing the likelihood of their failure.
Correct, absolutely. I don't have that with me.
No, that's fine, we can talk about that
Yeah.
offline.
I've got a comparison as well on the industrial side as to Peru
Because it
and
can't.
the difference between the two, and it kind of flips as the burden, industrial burden versus Peru kind of becomes lower than what Peru is based on the lack of industrial customers out there versus Peru. I'll be back.
Okay, thank you.
Take a tour?
You guys let me know anytime.
You want to tell them about the state's tour?
Ted Summers, the Department of Corrections, the state, and Ted Summers' folks come in for the tour because they wanted to see the place. They don't believe the paper. They want to see it, which they should. It's their due diligence. They have to. They come in. He looks at the plant. And says, "You want to walk up those stairs?" He's like, "I'm not walking up those stairs. I'm not doing it." So we took him around the back and had him through the back entrance, got him through there. He looked in here and he kind of laughs. And so we go out the back and he goes, "I need to see a well. I need to see your wells." And we've got 4 of them. We've got the 2 towers. He walks into the one well that's on site. I think that's the first set of pictures I put up there. Opens it up. He goes, "Yeah, that's a well. Wow. That's a nice board on your window there." We shut it, bang it shut, lock it down. And we said, "Okay, you want to come to the rest of them?" He goes, "I don't need to see anything else." You didn't even look at the other wells. All we saw was the engineering report. And we were like, "Oh man, shouldn't you see all?" No, I don't need to see it. So that was the tour we had. It was 25 minutes. Again, I've been up here for half an hour saying how bad we are. Give us the opportunity to make whatever happened in the past right. And to do that, we need an SRF loan for $3.5 million, which will, hopefully, if the rate passes, we'll be able to come to you next year, early next year. And then we're going to attempt to get an Okra grant for up to $700,000.
Well, if the repairs aren't done soon, they're not going to have water anyways.
If we don't get an infusion of cash soon, we're not going to have water, we're not going to have the money to pay the electric bill to our AMC.
It's kind of funny, one of the utilities board members joked around, said, "Can't we just sell this utility?" Well, we can't because we're in contract with the, in the deed, there's deed restrictions for 30-some years. We have to maintain and operate it before we could do anything with
30
it.
years
so-
through the Health and Human Services, that's who deeded it to us for 30 years now. We don't want to sell it. But
Right.
we're also in that situation to where the federal government said, "Here it is, have a nice day, take it." From the way I understand it, of course, I wasn't involved in that. I hear it was a contentious process. And so we have it for 30 years, and so we need to make sure we're operating it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, guys. Questions, let me know if you guys want a tour a day or whatever, and anybody that wants a tour, doesn't matter to us. It's all the plan, so.
So the way this ordinance reads is that in the future, rate increases will be limited to no more than 7.5% per year.
The way it reads is similar to how we have the Peru water rate, where we go through the Indiana Utility Regulatory Commission gives us a consumer price index, an inflation factor, and then applies that to, at the bottom of the rate. We would also like to do that, and the Department of Corrections didn't have a problem with that either, which is rare. So every April, when we come to you for whatever it is,
Annual cost of living.
Annual
whatever.
cost of living.
Okay.
And that, so we can avoid 17 years again.
That's all that language is at the bottom of the ordinance.
Sorry, thank you.
Yeah, I was in there, I just wanted to make sure that's what it was. That'll come back next month for further discussion or demonstration and adoption.
Okay. Next, we have ordinance 25, 2019.
Ordinance 25, 2019, an ordinance for additional appropriations.
Move we consider ordinance 25, 2019.
Second. It's been moved by Councilman Crosskoff and second by Councilman Guston to consider ordinance 25, 2019. Roll call.
Holland.
Yes.
Guston.
Yes.
Lee.
Yes.
Ramsey.
Yes.
Bowman.
Yes.
Langwell.
Yes.
Crosskoff.
Yes. And that will come back next month.
Okay. We'll move on to ordinance 26, 2019.
Did I pass it? Ordinance 26, 2019, an ordinance authorizing the entering into of a conditional project expenditure agreement of the City of Peru, Indiana, and TDV3 LLC, and the disposition of the proceeds thereof to TDV3 LLC, and authorizing and approving other actions in respect thereto.
Move we consider ordinance 26, 2019.
Second.
It's been moved by Councilman Crosskell and seconded by Councilman Lee to consider ordinance 26, 2019. Roll call.
Holland.
Yes.
Justin.
Yes.
Lee.
Yes.
Ramsey.
Yes.
Bowman.
Yes.
Langwell.
Yes.
Krauskopf.
Yes. Mr. Tidd, you seem to have the majority of the information on this, correct?
Well, I don't know.
You don't know.
I'll give it my best.
You normally do.
Good evening, and again, thank you very much for considering this ordinance this evening. This ordinance we're asking you to actually consider and adopt in one meeting tonight deals with potential development of about 2 acres of property in what we call Broadway Landing area, which is kind of just north of Dairy Queen and behind the Big R, that acreage out there and it's included in our economic development strategy and listed as Broadway Landing. We're looking at kind of in history, my board, the Miami County Economic Development Authority, acting as the redevelopment commission for the council, approved a resolution back at its last meeting, which I think you have a copy of in your packet, that is pledging a certain portion of real property tax dollars that are paid from this specific project, a certain percentage, in this particular case it's 60% for a period of 15 years, in recognition for the investment that's being made by the developer in that particular project. In this case is TDV3, which someone asked in the meeting that we had a little bit ago with the Economic Development Commission. The principals behind TDB3 are Dave and Trish Van Balen. So we had discussed, again, the pledge of 60% for 15 years of tax incremental financing dollars. Again, that's the real property dollars that are paid taxes. So the process would be is that if this gets approved through the council and we enter into this agreement, is they would pay their property taxes. Once they get deposited in the allocation fund for that particular district, TIF district, then by the documents that are in there, it so states that the economic treasurer, the Miami County Economic Development Authority, would reimburse 60% of those taxes that are paid. So again, there is no other obligation on the part of the city if basically the taxes are not paid. There's no reimbursement back to the developer in this case. So there's no obligation on the city other than to, through the Economic Development Authority, is to pay reimburse 60% of those taxes on an annual basis. So what has taken place leading up to this, you had my board approve the resolution suggesting or pledging 70% or 60%, I'm sorry, excuse me, I was thinking of the county's project. And then that came before the Economic Development Commission, which is a 3-member board that was appointed. Matter of fact, Mr. Holland serves on that representing the council. They met today at 5:30 in the public hearing. They considered my board's resolution, the pledge. They also looked at the financial agreement, which is basically before you, which is nothing more than an agreement that says this is how we're entering into, and this is the expectations. Both the parties subject to the agreement, which is basically the city in TDB3. And then there's also an expenditure agreement, which actually acts as a form, as a note, or in some cases you consider it maybe a bond, a revenue bond that pledges those real estate dollars
for each year for that period of time. So again, that's kind of the overview. The next step would be for the council to consider and adopt that ordinance if you so choose to do that, based on the recommendation of the commission. Then the next part of that process then transfers to the mayor and the clerk treasurer that basically executes the financial agreement and the expenditure agreement on behalf of the city with the company that's involved. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have. Jan?
One thing, it said the project will create approximately 50 jobs and $200,000 annual payroll. But that doesn't equal out to be very much per employee, does it? If it's not a mistake?
I'm not sure where.
It'll be a lot of part-time employees.
That's what I-
Most of them will be part-time,
Right.
and that's just the hourly associates. That's not the salaried associates.
But that still isn't very much.
That's
Well,
the
and-
bigger one.
Yeah, and what you're recognizing here is not necessarily, you're recognizing the investment that's being made by the developer in this case, not necessarily what the intended use is. So you're encouraging development. But, you know, that could be something else.
Could end up being better.
Right. But what you're doing is encouraging the investment on the part of the developer, not necessarily based on jobs or those kind of things, because you are adding to the assessed value of the city. You're adding 40% more in revenue, at least through the TIF, than you currently have.
And you say the Van Balen's on that land.
Van Balen and Russ Beller together own it in a partnership. And it's my understanding that Mr. Van Balen will be purchasing land from the partnership and then building the building. And then it'll eventually be a restaurant facility.
There's some of the wording that was kind of hit at me. Tell the teacher in me wrote it out and read.
Okay.
Initially, I was concerned that said project is not defined, nor was the borrower. This made it seem to some of us like it was some big secret that we council members did not need to know. This approach made me uneasy as to why we could not be informed yet what to vote for or against it. As stated in our City Code of Ordinance, item 3102, says that part of the City Council's responsibilities are the control of the city's property and finances and the appropriation of...
Jan, would you use your mic?
I'm sorry.
So we can hear you.
I'm sorry. How much of it shall I read over? Okay, I'll read this last part. As stated in our City Code of Ordinances, item 3102, it says that part of the City Council's responsibilities are the control of the city's property and finances and the appropriation of money. I believe that sections 5, 6, and 7 of this proposed ordinance takes away these powers from this council.
Okay. The ordinance here, 5 basically says execution and delivery of incentive agreements. Basically, the mayor, it says the mayor and the clerk treasurer of the city are hereby authorized and directed in the name and on behalf of the city to execute and deliver the incentive agreements subject to this common council, which are hereby approved in all aspects. So it's not taking, section 5 is not taking the power away from you. It's basically conditional upon you approving this allocation of funds or this disbursement of funds. If you do not approve, as the fiscal body of the city, this incentive, then there is no incentive agreements to execute by the mayor or the clerk treasurer.
The project is great, but it just was some of the wording that jumped out.
Right, and this is language from the attorneys. In this case, it's not this was drafted by Rich Starkey with Barnes and Thornburg.
I looked up some other things. And
Sure.
The other two that I had found
You-
named the entity that was getting the money and who was for, so,
TDB 3.
no, some other in the state where they had gotten this appropriation, like for the TIF, just to...
I'm sorry.
Okay.
I missed your question.
I looked up other incidents in the state where the TIF district, and those named the entities. We did not know who it was until the sign went up Friday.
Okay.
And it just seemed strange that we were not informed ahead of time.
Well, again, with economic development, we have to work within confidentiality. I mean, that's what it's all about. But before any public or any final approval is made, and that's what we're here doing tonight, is that now you know who the entity is, and that's, basically part of the process.
Okay.
One thing that I would, you'd also said about Section 6, changes in incentive agreements, and basically it says the mayor and the clerk treasurer of the city are hereby authorized in the name and on behalf of the city without further approval of the common council as the Economic Development Commission, or the Economic Development Commission to approve any changes in the incentive agreements as may be permitted by the act. I was talking with Mr. Holland earlier about that, and if that is something that you would want changed, to be that any change in the incentive agreement would have to come back to the council. I mean, we can make that change before you would, or we could hopefully approve and adopt subject to the change.
Make the
Make it as an amendment.
Okay.
So that if there was anything beyond, let's say, for example, the percentage of the reimbursement or the number of years, if for some reason that was requested to be changed, then that would have to be brought back before the council.
I think that would be a good idea.
Jim, can you tell me why that was put in there to begin with?
I don't know, it was just, again, this is kind of almost this is the same agreement that we used with the county. So this is basically,
It's kind of boilerplate state language that
has been in a lot of other TIP projects that, there's no hard and fast state statute that says, no, the council can't see any changes, or this is just the way it was, this is the way it was in the county's project that we did for Project Isotopes. So, being honest with you, with Rich Starkey's approval, we basically just changed the name from the county to the city, where it was appropriate.
Thank you.
Any other concerns or questions, Jim?
No.
Okay.
should that sign that's down there, that Taco John's will be there, should that come up after this tonight, if we approved it?
What do you mean?
Should that sign not be up?
Build regardless.
Yeah, they can build regardless. We're just hoping that in faith, that, the council would recognize that development and approve the incentive. I mean, again, we talk about having things for the citizens to go to enjoy. Again, you're recommending you're recognize the investment that's being made. And hopefully that's the way that we're going to encourage other development and increasing. I mean, we hopefully are all about increasing overall assessed value in the community, and this is one way to do that, whether it should have been after the fact or before the fact. Now, could this development not occur? Could the sign come down? Should you not choose to do this? That's up to the developer.
What about the other fast food businesses that are within a mile or so?
Again, Jen, I'd like to try to get you to focus that, forget that's a fast food restaurant.
Okay.
This is, we're recognizing the development that's being made by a developer to build a building and invest in the community. Whether that was going to be a shoe store or was going to be a fast food restaurant, we're encouraging the developer. And I would say that anybody that wants to invest $500,000 in our community, I'd offer the same incentive and be standing before you right now recommending approval.
So every economic development deal that I can recall, and Jenny can correct me if I'm wrong, especially when they go through Makita, they usually go by some code name. I remember Topaz was a big one.
Right.
Some level of secrecy when it comes to development is par for the course. That's every single one. So if you want developers to come here and want to invest their money into our community, that's the way that every single community is when we come in and they're investigating a place to go. This kind of undertone of conspiracy that I pick up from the council members on this, when someone's coming to invest their money in our community, every single time you hear it from everybody, like, well, we want more investment. We want people to come here and do investment in our community, but the minute they do, you don't like the way they did it, how they did it. There's a chorus of discontent by some people every time development comes. And I think it's our job as the city to try to foster a positive environment for investment and not let politics get in the way of that.
Be happy to answer any other questions you might have about the ordinance. And again, we'd ask you, if at all possible, to consider and adopt tonight, subject to the change in Section 6, where we would, and I've worked with Dustin to change the language in this, where any change in the incentive agreement would require the approval of the Common Council.
Dustin, I think we can just change it if we drop the first 2.5 sentences out, to put our lines out, and just start with any changes in the incentive agreement as may be permitted by this act must return to the City Council for approval. If you start there with, after Economic Development Commission approve, we have a capital A, any changes in the incentive agreement as may be permitted by this act must return to the City Council for approval. Is that?
If that's what you guys,
Is that
Yeah.
legally is fine?
I think that would resolve the issues you guys have. Ultimately, it's your decision. Is it necessary? Possibly. Is it probably not?
I had a couple phone calls about people questioning the city council, basically abdicating their responsibility for the money. And so I had people call me last night, I had people call me Friday, the same thing. So this got out Friday, and I had people calling me Friday and yesterday afternoon, and I think that was the major consensus, was that it's the city council's responsibility, fiscal responsibility, and it should remain with the city council.
Mr. Chair, can I go ahead and ask you to make sure that it's clear that the mayor and I did not write that in or ask you to write that in?
No, it wasn't. Again, it was a product of prior projects that came from Barnes and Thornburg. And again, this is same as the counties. And when you had asked me that question the other day, I didn't realize that was in there. It was only until Blaine brought it up just a little bit ago that that can easily be amended.
It doesn't matter. I mean, this same paragraph is sitting there for Peru, Indiana, and versus Carmel. And I can imagine it would be a lot more cumbersome for the Carmel City Council to address something like this. But in Peru, we're small enough that we can take care of it.
Not a problem with making that change. And again, this is project unique, so this is not, it's only specific to this particular project. The Economic Development Commission, the 3-member board that you established, hopefully we have them meeting left and right, because that means we have more projects going in the city where we're pledging TIF funds. But each time there will be a separate project. And again, I apologize for the kind of secrecy and the confidentiality, but rest assured that any time with your approval or before your approval, you will know who the entities are involved.
but for the sake of confidentiality, we have to keep it into a certain point. So I apologize for that.
Another 57 days, I don't care.
I understand, sir.
Any other questions up here?
Oh, thank you.
Any questions from the audience? Okay, I want to move that we change Section 6 to read, any changes in the incentive agreement as may be permitted by this act must return to the city council for approval.
I second that.
Yes.
It's been moved by Councilman Crosskopf and seconded by Councilman Gusting to amend ordinance,
Section 6.
right, I'm just going to say ordinance 26, 2019, section 6, to read as stated. Roll call.
Just a second. Mr. Kern, are we okay with that?
Yes,
Is
it's
it
fine.
worded properly, legalese?
Yes, that'll be fine.
Okay, just want to make sure.
Holland?
Yes.
Guston?
Yes.
Lee?
Yes.
Ramsey?
Yes.
Bowman?
Yes.
Langwell?
Yes.
Crosskoff?
Yes. I move that we suspend the rules and allow us to consider and adopt ordinance 26, 2019 in the same meeting.
Second.
It's been moved by Councilman Crosskopf and seconded by Councilman Bowman to amend the rules and allow for the consideration and adoption in the same meeting. Roll call.
Holland?
Yes.
Guston?
Yes.
Lee?
Yes.
Ramsey?
Yes.
Bowman?
Yes.
Langwell?
Yes.
Crosskoff?
Yes. Move we adopt ordinance 26, 2019.
Second.
It's been moved by Councilman Crosskopf, seconded by Councilman Lee to adopt ordinance 26, 2019.
Any questions? Any questions from the audience? Comments, suggestions, criticisms? No? Roll call.
Holland?
Yes.
Guston?
Yes.
Lee?
Yes.
Ramsey?
Yes.
Bowman?
Yes.
Langwell?
Yes.
Crosskoff?
Yes, 7-0.
Thank you very much.
Motion passes. I believe that is all that is on our agenda for tonight.
Any further to come to the council?
I move we adjourn.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to adjourn. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed?